setting up the lights. So I'm inside the room, and I'm going to use an area light. So I'm going to go ahead and create an area light. Here's the area light. So I'm going to put the area light outside of the door so I can produce a bunch of photons from that area light. I'm going to go over here, get this guy out of the door, and scale that light. One thing I didn't see, the first thing I didn't notice what the scene size is, but it doesn't really matter now because we said we're gonna just work with small scene sizes as well here. This should be fine. So I have the area light set up outside of the door, and since we're going to use a global illumination, I'm just going to go ahead and emit and press this, emit photons. These are 8,000. Starts with 8,000. And I'm going to go to the render settings and turn on the global illumination. So now I'm going to reduce the resolution and start rendering. So I get something. I get like an initial. This is too small of a render. I'm going to go 50%. So one thing I want to do is, like, I don't need any intensity on the area light. So we're getting a global illumination, and I'm gonna go ahead and get the intensity. Some people do 0.1, so they have a little bit of an intensity, but it doesn't really matter. We can use shadows if we want. So now I need to increase, obviously, some of the settings. But before I do that, I'm going to go to the render settings and use the radius since we are using it. So to use that, I need to go and see what my scene is like. First of all, I'm going to turn on the grid. That's the unit size. So each grid space should be 1 unit. And if I go to my preferences, settings, it's a centimeter. It's the same as before. So we're on centimeters. So if I use the measuring tool, we need to know how big the scene is, just so we can understand. That's 35 centimeters. The previous scene we were working on was like 10. So probably a little bit more numbers. That's why it's darker. Remember the previous scene, it was 10 centimeters, 3 times smaller. That's why it was so bright. So it's you know, it's proportionate to the number. So we have to, like, kind of realize that scale. Go back to the bookmark and go to the light, go to the render settings, and now I'm gonna probably give like the radius to 10 centimeters and merge distance maybe 0.5. And I want to see what this does. I'm going to increase the intensity of the photons, like from 8,000 to 10,000. And now it's a little bit more normal. So still, like, I need to, like, increase the size a lot. Now what I'm going to do is close this window to update. Deselect the light, reselect the light, update the light settings here. So now I can see my global illumination photon numbers. So I can just add another 0 here, so I can have 100,000 photons. And since we're going to be using Final Gather as well, I might as well turn it on right now. So this works well. combination, and I'm gonna go to the final gather and turn on the final gather as well, and just try a render here. This is gonna drop the light intensity down, so we're gonna see what we have. So what I'm gonna do is go back. Now, if I wanted to make a night scene, that would be perfect. It's already good. I mean, for instance, that's a good start, because let's say like it's already, the light is already, you know, dying, and it's like a magic hour, so there's no like there's no shadows and there's no definition anymore. That would be perfect, because then I would just start with that. I get perfect light around the house, around the interior, and then I can start using like spotlights to create like an atmosphere with the interior lights. So that would be a cool thing to do. Now, let me go ahead and we're not going to do that, so I'm going to go ahead and select it. And increase the intensity from 10,000 to 30,000. I'm going to drop the resolution. I'm going to keep this image and drop the resolution more, so I can see. So you can see immediately how it changes. Now, in this particular scene, I don't want to be too economical. I'm just gonna add more. I want to make it even better. So I'm gonna, instead of like 100,000 photons, I can assist it with 300,000. You know, or even I'm gonna do 500,000. And it is going to affect the render time. The photons, the more we have, the more, yeah. But it's gonna reduce the blotchiness. You know, all this kind of like blurring. You know, all these inconsistencies in the render. I'm not gonna overdo it. I'm just gonna see how much it's gonna. You can always see render time 0.11 in this resolution. You can see how much. And this, I'm gonna make that 50,000. So just to get more light in the scene. So now this is very balanced. I'm gonna make a spotlight and attach it on that lamp. So I'm gonna go ahead and create a spotlight. I can look through selected, so I can go render panels, look through selected. So that's the spotlight. I'm gonna go inside the lamp. And I'm gonna make that spotlight with a decay of a quadratic decay. I'm going to increase the cone angle and sort of like almost like the light, and create that. A little bit of a drop off, maybe 0.1, and make it, I mean, I'm just going to leave it white right now. So I'm going to get out of this view. I'm going to go back to perspective. So the spotlight is there, so I'm going to move it sort of over there. And so I'm gonna press 7. So here's what I have. So I need to like increase the intensity of that light. 40 doesn't do much. 100, a little bit better. I can also increase the cone angle. Maybe I'm gonna do 150. Use some nice shadows. Use ray traced shadows. I'm gonna I'm gonna leave it like that. I'm gonna move back to my bookmark and shoot another render. This doesn't have any photons. That the spotlight is just a light that I'm using in the room. So with a decay. So this is okay. I'm gonna add No, I'm just gonna make the intensity a little bit less because it's too bright. So I'm gonna do like 100 or 110, and then just select this object here and assign a new material. I'm gonna use like a semi-transparent material, um, like a mental ray MIA material X. Maybe a frosted glass. Actually, no. I'm gonna use like a glazed ceramic and then make the reflection lower. And make this a little bit transparent. You can always select a region to render, a small region. It didn't work out, so let me just use translucency. Actually, I'm going to use another material instead because I can do the ambient color and take the transparency down a little bit. So I'm going to use an ambient color. Yeah, that's what I wanted to do. So I have like a little bit of a self-illuminating piece. Now that might be too much. Let me take it down. Okay, so now I'm ready to finalize the render. So I'm just gonna render one more time, and then I'm gonna add some settings. First of all, there's like those, the floor has a little bit of a blurriness on the reflection, and that is like in the MIA material. So what I need to do is to go ahead and click that setting. Also, I want to check the shadows here from the light. I think they should be fine, but if not, we're gonna do another render. We're gonna do a medium-sized render first. So the first thing I need to do is go to the settings and get the sampling quality to 1, as we do, like, make the quality better. Now this one, the floor, has an MIA material. So the reflection, as you can see, the glossiness is a little bit, when you reduce the glossiness, it blurs out the surface. But then we need some samples. Maybe we can do like 12, so we can have a better, or like 15 samples for this one. And then this doesn't have any reflection, so the only reflective surface would be that. And then I think we're good. I'm just gonna go ahead and render, save this scene. And I'm gonna render in a bigger resolution, so I'm just gonna go test resolution 50%. So I'm gonna let it render and see what I have. So one thing about using global illumination in these interiors is the fact that you can sort of like control the light inside the room, and you don't. And if you use it very subtle, at least you have the effect of the room having, some sort of like feeling light from. Even if you want to do like a night scene with like, in this case, I'm using like a lamp. I could take I could take this global illumination and reduce the value, and it would be perfect because then I could see the walls and I can create an interior kind of atmosphere. So this looks actually great. There's no blurriness. There's no like I don't see any blotchiness or all these problems. Sometimes you can see no, this is actually very clear. And I can see the stucco too. I can see some of the stucco. So now for us to see the truth, we can just go ahead and render the final one. I'm going to save this scene. So this is one, two, so like we started from here to here. And I'm going to go all the way to a final render. This took 1 minute. I'm going to go to my render settings. And I would like to go and increase the image size to 1920 by 1080. So that one might take 10 minutes. Who knows? I mean, I can stop the video here and then. No, it might go faster actually. That's right. Do you guys have any questions in regards to that? So it's like straightforward. Let me repeat the steps. Like the first thing you need to do, obviously, if you need to add textures, you texture everything, procedural maps or bitmaps. You finish with the texturing, you finish with the material application, you test it without any lights, then you bring in an area light for this particular technique. You put the area light outside since we want an outside source of light to enter the space. Then you turn on global illumination and you add all the settings in the area light as we said, the amount of energy for the photons and then the amount of photons that we need to use. And exponent, for the exponent, I just leave it to 2, like it is. And then you can regulate how much value you need inside. You turn on final gather, so that those two in combination, they balance out all the scene. One final thing that we do is we actually go and measure the room scale, so we know that this is a miniature. So let's like treat it like one and just go and figure out. That is very important for the units, especially when you go to the global illumination and you want to do the blending mode. So you want to do that in the distance, So those two little things in the render center. I mean, for an initial rendering for a presentation or for like for your reel, it would be a great thing to use. For that. All the interiors that you've made, maybe sets that you do. We'll see how we can use different lights that emit different type of energy of photons to create atmospheres in more complicated environments. This is only a straightforward environment, like a in between interior and exterior. So we have a door that is open and the light comes into the room. Whenever you use a decay, whenever you use a spotlight, add a decay. Whenever you use any light, I would add decay. I don't add decay I'm not adding any decay or any intensity to the area light because that's only used to emit photon energy in the room. But if you're using a spotlight, the one I'm using right now, I think it's great to use decay. And the most realistic decay is the quadratic decay. Otherwise, if you don't use decay, the light is going to have the same intensity, if you notice here. So it's more intense on the table, it's less intense on the floor. When it hits the floor, it's already dying out. But that's why quadratic decay is good, because if it hits a bunch of surfaces, it will start decaying gradually, so it will create like that, obviously that realistic effect. So let's see. My only kind of maybe worry is the stucco. That's the only thing that I'm worried about. But everything else might be fine. I mean, outside you could place a bunch of cardboard with houses and stuff. You can just cut it out and texture it and throw it out there. I can show you a quick way to make cardboards, create like a projection mapping technique so you can actually have another background. The floor is turning out really well though. Like with this technique, on the screen is much better.
Oh yeah, way better.
It's better, right? I mean, and it doesn't look like it's because of that. I mean, I can see a little bit of a seam here, but you know, I mean, those can be avoided.
I wish the picture wasn't so heavy.
Yeah. I think that's coming out well too. The stucco. It's kind of strange. Yeah, it's actually fine. It looks like it's in the correct scale. That's what I was afraid of. Maybe the stucco is like.
A little off.
Yeah, but you can
Yeah.
see that it's kind of fine. So these videos, I will I'm gonna complete that, turn it off, and then I'm gonna add the videos later on the channel, on advanced lighting and texture, and then you guys can and I'm gonna get that send that model too, or I can drop it now. You know, there if I do it now. It's actually interesting because I see that the stucco you can't see it much over here, and it's realistic that way because the light it hits it more, and then where the light is hitting it on a different angle, I can see the stucco. I mean, on my screen, I can see the stucco being more elaborate. And it's interesting. Okay, 6 minutes and 25, but a very large, a nice image. You can see the stucco, right? You can see. Looks good, right? Yeah. That stuff is a little bit of the grain here is a little bit of a problem. We're gonna get rid of it, and there's all that stuff is because of a shadow that's coming from the area light, and we're gonna have to. I should have taken it away, but so far so good. We're getting something here, so I'm gonna save this. Um, Close it, save it.